So my name is John Easton. I'm the Director of Wealth Management here at Maximizer. I've been at Maximizer 18 years. Originally, I ran the product management team, and more recently, I worked with the product management team to make the wealth management product. I worked with very specific financial advisors to do so, and we've now brought that product to market, and there's a small team within the Maximizer organization that works with me to bring this product to market and to service it, and of course to market it to the North American channel. The agenda for today is very straightforward. What are the financial challenges of working with millennials, and how to win and retain millennials as clients? And I think you'll find that as a demographic, this group is quite unique unto themselves, and you're going to need to employ slightly differing tactics, and if you want to be successful with them and keep them as your clients. So today we're focused on the Canadian millennials, which are also known as the Generation Y. This demographic is born roughly between 1980 and the year 2000. So currently they're somewhere between the ages of 16 and 36, let's say, maybe up to 40 years old. There are some key differences between this group and their U.S. counterparts in that 9.7 million Canadians right now, 27% of the population are considered millennials. By the year 2025, that's expected to grow to as much as 75% of the workforce. And right now they represent 37% of the workforce. So even though they're 27% of the population, they're 37% of the workforce, and that is going to double in the next 7 years, which is speaking to how many of your clients, as you all know, are facing retirement or soon will be retiring. The millennials themselves, while they may not be as wealthy as the baby boomers are today, they definitely hold the key to tomorrow's wealth. For any of you that have listened to me speak on the great intergenerational wealth transfer, you'll know that I have a webinar I've given that talks about the $30 trillion that's going to change hands between baby boomers and millennials over the next 15 to 20 years. So what are some of the financial financial challenges of our millennials? Well, they have a lot of competing goals for their money. Millennials are saving for their down payment, right? And for those of you that are paying attention to the news, and I know most of you, if not all of you are, you know that the rules in Canada are changing once again, right? The deposit of 20%, tougher rules, stress testing now on first-time buyers. So again, this is putting more and more pressure on millennials to come up with the right amount of money, but also to have the right income level. And this is creating a lot of stress for them, of course, right? They're worried about paying off the mortgages if they do have a down payment. Most people I know are not buying new homes, they're buying homes that they're renovating, especially first-time and second-time buyers. So there's competing costs for the money in renovations. They're paying off their debts. Millennials themselves are the highest, as you heard me say before, they're the most highly educated. They've grown up with the internet their entire life. They're also carrying the highest student debt, far and away higher than any other generation before them. So they have to pay off that debt. For those that have started having a family as well, they're raising a family, and the extra money, that significant amount of extra money that goes along with raising a family. Millennials have always been a lifestyle generation. This was kind of, if you all remember, some of the first Apple ads, it was all generational. For those of you that don't know, it was Apple hired the former VP of marketing from Pepsi, if you remember the Pepsi generation, that was created about 30 years ago. And it was that exact same mind that worked with Steve Jobs to create the millennial generation, which is also in some people's known as the I generation. Right? So lifestyle has been very, very important and is very important to this group, as are their vacations. And a lot of what I've said has come from the fact that millennials were raised by baby boomers, and baby boomers were the wealthiest middle class ever in the history of North America to date. So these are the children of, and the children's children of that very wealthy generation. having seen their parents um, become and live their lives in a fairly affluent way, that's created a lot of pressure on millennials to want to realize the same lifestyle that their parents had. And this has definitely led to the fact that they are constantly stressed about money. And there's no doubt about it, all the studies that we have undertaken where we're speaking directly to millennials brings this statistic to the forefront. So what is their response? Save. 60% have an emergency fund. 60% have an emergency fund. That is a higher percentage than every other age group preceding them. Right? The Generation Ys, the Generation X's, they don't have these kinds of emergency funds. But interestingly, the youngest generation right now does. Right? So this is a very, very debt-averse generation. And they see the virtue of saving, at least for short-term goals. Right? When you look at this chart here, some interesting comparisons. 26% save more than versus the population. 23% is savings. 25% are paying off debt versus 30% of the population. 20% are investing effectively versus 24% of the population. And 17 is budgeting more versus 14% of the population. So they budget more, they save more, they invest less, and they're clearing off less debt. And I think they're clearing off less debt because they have competing areas for their money, as I've gone through in the previous slide. So what does this mean? Are they saving? And you saw me say, yes, they are saving, 57%. In fact, or 59% have an emergency fund. But are they saving for the short term or the long term? Interesting statistic, 57% say they want to retire by 60 years old, but only 27% think they can. So that's a disconnect, right? Six out of 10 say they want to retire, 3 out of 10 know they can, think they can. So there's 3 out of 10 that want to that already know they can't. And the other 4 out of 10 are not even planning on retiring by 60 because it's not even a possibility for them to think about. 4 in 10 of affluent millennials surveyed say they believe they will have more than enough income when they retire. Where's that positive outcome coming from? Right? Despite putting their savings for retirement near the bottom of their priorities. Right? So retirement savings, they're not putting money away for retirement. They're not concerned about running out of money in retirement. There's a disconnect there as well. So why? Some of my studies say blame it on their youth, right? Blame it on their, right? They're in their 20s, they're in their early 30s. Retirement is something that's a long ways away in their minds. And the other priorities are more immediate. So the family, paying off debt, buying the house, renovating the house, right? So those are all competing, as we've talked about, and they're all winning ahead of investing, right? This is an interesting one I've got for you as well. So my statistics say that millennials are not taking advantage of such things such as companies' employees' contribution matching programs. I've got a statistic that says 1 out of 3 millennials do not even know if their company has an RRSP matching program. And that is astounding to me, right? And that's a TD statistic, right? So what's some insight into what I'm telling you here? Time is on their side. That's a benefit. Time is on your side to work with them too and get working with them. But you need to teach them how to save for retirement, right now, while they still have things they need to know. And that's an important detail. We'll talk about that a little bit more. So what is it about millennials as well, right? Are they investing, right? No, they're not investing really. They see themselves as risk tolerant and they're focused on growth, right? But our statistics show they have the lowest level of financial literacy of any group. Your KYCs will show that, right? This is according to a US study. Both PwC and George Washington University both tell me the same thing. 8 out of KYCs and all surveys against them, only 8% say they have high financial literacy, 8%. 24% say they have basic financial knowledge. This talks about this starts to dovetail into another webinar I've given about meeting the millennials through meeting the millennial children of your clients, right? And starting to impart upon them financial knowledge because they don't have any. And I have a whole webinar about that. This statistic supports that. Only 1 out of 4 millennials today has a basic financial knowledge. Like, no wonder they're not investing. They're not sure about what they would do. right? In Canada, a third of those 18 to 33 say they are not at all knowledgeable about retirement savings plans. That's a TD survey. It's in CanadianBusinessWeek.com, CanadianBusiness.com. So like yourselves, and like myself, and like everyone else I know, if you're not sure about something, you're not going to go into it very wholeheartedly, that's for sure. Right? But one thing that is encouraging is while millennials admit they don't know a lot about investing, many of them admit that they are keen to learn and they are willing to learn if you will put the tools in front of them to help them learn. Investment comfort level. They hold higher levels of cash, as I said before, compared to all other older generations, and that's including those over 69. So interestingly, right, higher levels of cash between 18 and 35-year-olds than those over 69. So the older subsegment graduated around the time of the financial crisis, and so this is the 2008, 2009, the most recent one in history. So this generation has some memory of that time period, and they are apprehensive about investing right now. So the last stat on the page, 60% are more concerned about making money and protecting capital, right, than growing more money from their existing capital. So again, risk averse, investment averse. So where do the millennials turn, right? Where do they turn when they're asking for advice? They turn to their successful parents, the successful middle class North American generation of baby boomers that has done very, very, very well, and that have done very, very well with yourselves, with RRSP programs, with investment and financial plans. But their helicopter parents have always been there. And I think that's an interesting term that I was given here, helicopter parents. But the parents have always been there for the children, and their parents love to offer advice because their parents, have done well and want to help their children do well naturally. So this generation has always turned to their parents for approval of their decisions, right? And the bank of mom and dad has often helped with financing of smaller purchases as the child was growing up, and are more and more being turned to assist with that down payment money. So here's a key insight for the advisors. You need to get to know the parents. So for those of you that have heard one of my webinars around meeting millennials and the importance of meeting millennials that are not your clients, but meeting basically the clients of the children of your clients. This is the opposite of that. This is when you have a millennial for a client, but you don't have their parents for a client. It is really, really important for the exact same reasons that I've talked about before to meet their parents. Right? Because as I've just finished going through, right, their parents are the ones that are the children are using as their financial sounding board for all their major decisions. So how do you work with a millennial client? I think I just told you the answer to that. You get to know their parents if they are not clients of yours already. You include those parents in the communications. Right? These children are looking for parents' approval. They've sought their parents' approval their entire life, and they're likely going to forward anything you send to them to their parents anyways. So ask if you would like to include their parents in your communications with them, and then just do so, and record that, of course, in your CRM. When you're communicating with the millennials, they're a little different themselves. They like short, frequent communications, visual communications where it's appropriate. They are fine with informal language, kind of text language, and some of you certainly know what that is. Certainly if you have children, you've been texting with your children. And parents, the parents of these millennials that are not potentially investors of yours, just like your own clients who are in this age demographic, love data, love paper, love statistics, you're going to want to provide that to this group as well because they're the exact same group, they just don't happen to be your clients yet, right? And the parents will go deep into the research just like your clients in this age demographic do, and they will give an opinion to their children, and that opinion obviously is going to be very important to how successful your relationship with the children are going to be. It's also important for both the parents and the millennial children that you present polished products, right? Presentation is everything, as they say, and in investment world, it's certainly true as well. So the parents have come through an investment time period where investments have become more and more and more complex. There's always been a lot of products on the market. There's competing products from the big six banks as well as the dealers. And they're all presenting their information in a very polished way, and you need to piggyback on that situation as well. So, advice, strategy. How do you max out your value proposition when reaching and working with millennial investors? Financial planning the importance of financial planning cannot be underscored any greater than what I'm trying to say now, and that it's not enough to just manage portfolios anymore. And many advisors say this to me as well. They started out with, having taken the securities course and they get their licensing, but many advisors that I've spoken to until perhaps later in their careers did not seek out a financial planning designation. And more advisors that work with Maximizer are very much looking for the ability to offer a family practice of service to their clients. So they want to manage the portfolios, they want to manage the investments, they want to do estate planning, and a paramount structure to everything I've just said is having a financial plan. So it's really important that you work with your investors, especially the millennials, and take the time to develop a personalized financial strategy for them, right? One that you show them how they can achieve their financial priorities, right? And you have to educate them. This goes back to conversations and topics that I've spoken about what's called a financial playbook and giving a financial playbook to your clients, right? They have a lot they need to learn about in finance, personal finance, in saving of information, of the different types of saving vehicles that are available to them, as well as the different investment options. And the more you can provide that information to them by way of a financial plan and showing them how these different products and services are going to help them meet their plan, the greater impact you're going to be able to have on their lives and having them as a long-term client. So when you're thinking about what I've just said, right, the millennials do value advice and they do need it. They're quite stressed, so your value is going to be helping them prioritize, right, against those many competing demands, right, and recommending the appropriate strategies because they need advice and they can get their information already from their peers. They can get this information from their parents, but demonstrate that you're the one that can help them get what they want and what they need, and show them how you're going to do that. So it's one thing to have the information; it's another how to put the information into action, and that's where your value comes in, is helping them take that action and the timings of those actions. Right? You need to teach them about the basics of automated savings plans, of TFSAs, right, and the value of saving early, showing what investing $200 a month does from the age of 24 onwards versus the difference of investing $200 a month if you start at 45. Right? It's a phenomenal difference, and you need to demonstrate that. And when you do, you're adding immense value. Right? And I like this point too here, is being a coach and not the principal. Right? You need to educate, but you're not preaching, you're not dictating, you're being a partner. Right? Everyone values collaboration. Millennials are no different. In fact, they're called validators or soloists and delegators. Right? So when they work with somebody, they actually expect to work with somebody, and they expect to have a role and perhaps a significant role in the decision making that's going to be drawn out here. Helping millennials grow, right, in a way that's right for them, right? Tough love doesn't work for these investors, right? They're conservatives. They saw their parents, they saw the damage to their parents' investments in 2008 and 2009. Our statistics have shown that they've already admitted that they can't meet their own spending goals right now, and they certainly are not going to be able to meet those spending goals if they're putting their money in cash, right? You need to help find ways for them to grow their money without going too far beyond their risk tolerances. And so maybe it's GICs or TFSAs or something more conservative than equities, of course. In general, this demographic is comprised of very socially aware investors, right? Responsible investing and social causes are very, very important to this group. They're actually seeking a balance between ROI and a positive social impact, right? So, very important statistic. 2/3 of millennials consider ESG, environmental, social, and governance factors when making investment decisions. That's a 66%. Gen X is 48%. Baby boomers, 40%. Big difference, right? Big difference. So people that, were willing to own some of those, let's put brackets around dirty stocks in the past, modern day investors are not. They're going to be much more socially aware. They're willing to take a little bit less return or less profit or less dividend to actually not be damaging the climate and not be damaging the environment. And so you need to be aware of that. You need to start educating yourself on products that are considered green products if you're not already. Right? And it's important to know what's going on with any investments you recommend. This is sort of the age-old adage: you don't recommend a company you wouldn't own yourself, and you don't recommend a company that you don't actually know quite a bit about, right? These investors will pull out of investments if there's corporate activity that's going on that's considered maybe less than above the board or a little bit objectionable, and certainly when it comes to either environmental or social issues. Right, so consider learning more about responsible investment products. Right, this age group is more likely than any other age group to want to buy these products. So understandable if you haven't been selling them because your clients haven't been asking for them, but your new clients are going to ask for them. Introduce this group to the joys of our RSPs. Make sure they understand the basics. Right. Time is on their side, as we've said. We need to teach them how to save for retirement. We need to teach them while they still have time to actually make that compounding effect really, really work for them, right? RSPs are statistically a vehicle that they're not all buying right now, right? And of course, we all know that they can help them save long-term without sacrificing some sort of shorter-term goals, right? They need to be taught how to use them strategically. And there's a list of ways to use your RSPs on the screen right now strategically. RSPs, as you all know, don't just represent a place to park your money and then start pulling it out when you decide to retire, right? They are a place to save money for today, but you can use that money long before you retire in some of the ways, right? You're getting a tax refund immediately, so there's a great benefit, right? There is the home buyer's plan that lets you pull out the money interest-free and put it back, right? There is the lifelong learning plan, right? And the last point, which I laughed about earlier, is there is our employer RSP matching. Right, all of which millennials, like any other cohort group or any other demographic, should be also taking advantage of. Right? Remember, this group's parents all grew up on RSPs and did very, very well by them. They should not be a difficult sell. We just need to be introduced and talked about. Another important point, and I am cognizant of time here, and I know we're getting near to the bottom of the hour. You need to embrace technology because the millennials have already embraced technology, right? It's okay not to phone this group every day. It's okay to not just communicate with them by the phone, right? Once you've had your face-to-face meetings and there's a relationship that's been established, they will be looking for other ways to communicate that are more around their lifestyle. So that is texting, right? It is being mobile. You need to be mobile. Your clients are certainly mobile. They're going to want to be interacting with you wherever you are. They're going to be looking for that answer that's yes, no to a question that they're going to ask. So being responsive is extremely important. Again, that means mobile friendly. Right? This group is tethered to their smartphone. This group spends 2.5 hours each day on their smartphones, and they check their phone 10 times an hour. So every 6 minutes, on average, this entire group is peeking over at their phone, giving it a quick click, seeing what emails come in, seeing what messages they've received. Okay, so if they've sent you a message and you take 4 or 5 hours to reply, they're not really liking that very much. Inside the first hour is almost what's expected. So again, they're really, really comfortable with technology, and they also enjoy learning through technology. So any information you want to disseminate, do so online. Every piece of information that's available online, share that, because that's the way they want to consume it anyways. And of course, the second last point is you need to be seen on social media as well. Right? They're going to be out there. They have Facebook accounts, of course. I don't know too many businesses today that don't have a website. I don't know too many professionals today that don't have a LinkedIn profile. And I've certainly had a great number of advisors say to me, John, why do I need a LinkedIn profile? It's like, well, so people can find you. And so that maybe you can start to have a presence for people that are looking for someone like you in their area. And if you're invisible, which means if you don't have a social presence, they will never find you. Right? You might find them, but they're going to then go back looking online for information about you, and when they don't find any, they're not going to be interested in working with you. So yes, you have to have a website. Yes, it has to be responsive. Yes, it needs to be interactive. And yes, you need to be doing other things than just having a website in 2016. So how do you engage a millennial client? I think this is a fairly standard question that I usually ask at one of my presentations. You're going to use your CRM. There's no secret recipe to anything that I've said here. I think I've given you a lot of great insight and information into the millennials and their psyche, if you will. But how you interact with them, is no different than any other client that you interact with. You're going to use your CRM and you're going to use it regularly. Right? Whenever any of you have heard me ever speak about anything related to the Maximizer Wealth Management product, you hear me say that there's 4 pillars of successful wealth management. The purpose of having a CRM and having a wealth management CRM is to help you be organized, it's to help you be compliant, it's to help you provide superior service, and it's to help you build a business that's scalable, saleable, auditable, transparent, right? And all the things that your clients are expecting of you is also listed right in front of you here. Right? Your clients are expecting you to be organized. They want you to work with them in a very compliant way. They want the best service that you can possibly provide to them. And they want you to be doing it in such a way that if you were ever to sell the business or move it on to someone else, the person that takes that business is going to be able to interact with them in the exact same way that they've been interacting with you. When I talk about the Wealth Management CRM, right, the purpose of it is, as I mentioned before, but what is it doing for you is providing that complete historical record of each and every one of your interactions and engagements with each and every one of your clients and each and every one of their family members. So it's not enough to just be recording details about your clients. It's extremely important to be recording the details about the client's family members as well. Right? And this might be up the chain, as in the parents, or it could be down, as in the children. In either case, it's important you know as much as you can about every single person in that family. The last point about CRM, ensuring your book of business is quantifiable, verifiable, compliant, and up to date. And if I was looking for an advisor, I would be asking them how they keep track of all my client information. And if they said they didn't have a CRM, the interview would be over at that moment. But I might even go so far as to say, let me see it. Let me see how you work with the other clients. And the CRM becomes something that you then can open up and share with prospective clients and say, this is how I work with clients. This is how often we meet. And this is the number of interactions I have with each one of my clients. And this is the number of interactions each of my staff have with my clients. And it's all here for you to see. And as a person working with an advisor, I would find comfort in seeing the dozens and dozens and dozens of fields of personal information about me that my advisor is recording, but also all the information about the products and services, about whether or not I have a will. They're working with me about my estate plan, right? Do I have a succession strategy for my business? All these things that are part of most people's lives to greater or lesser extents are now being captured by the top advisors across the country. And they're doing so that they can offer the best possible service to not only their client, but everyone else in that client's household, with, of course, the objective of having everyone in that household become a client. So that takes me to the end of my slides for today. I did want to leave some time for questions. I will leave this slide up right now that has my email address on it. For any of you that would like to send me an email or have any questions about the Maximizer Wealth Management Edition, please feel free to reach out. We do have a trial version that's available from our website. We also, for anybody that wants a presentation, we will have one of our account managers walk you through the entire product and show you all the different features within the Wealth Manager that make it Canada's leading wealth management product today. So I'm going to just jump into the questions area right now, as well as the chat. I'm going to see what's here. Okay, the first question I see is related to this person's using a previous version of Maximizer, but it's not the Wealth Management Edition, and they're asking how hard is it to have their data, can they upgrade to the Wealth Management Edition, and does their information come across? So both The answers to both questions are yes. The Wealth Management Edition is just a specialized or a vertical version of Maximizer. So we're able to upgrade any previous version of a Maximizer database up to our current version, and then we upgrade it and convert it into the Wealth Management template format. From that point, you can either run the Maximizer Wealth Management Edition in your office, or you can run it in our data center. We have a data center that's based out of Toronto. That's a good question, thank you. So I'm being asked if it works on a Macintosh. Our browser version works on Firefox, Chrome, and Internet Explorer. So on the Macintosh, if you run Chrome or Firefox, then yes, our product works just fine. Yeah, that's a good question. Thank you, Jen. I'm being asked, this person is not using Maximizer, they're using a competing CRM right now. They're asking if we are able to bring data out of other CRMs into Maximizer. We are. Maximizer's been making a contact manager for just about 28 years now. We've been competing against ACT, Goldmine, Microsoft CRM, Salesforce. In the wealth management world as well, I would add to that Pareto, and I would also add to that Build Gorilla. And so in all of those products cases, we're able to extract the entire database. So not just name, address, phone number, but any emails that have been saved, any files, documents that have been scanned and saved, all past and future tasks and appointments that have been saved. All of those data sets will come over and be lined up and put in the appropriate areas inside Maximizer. And so yes is the short answer. We're able to bring over the data from all of those systems. Other systems, I didn't mention Salesforce. We also do have an import now out of Salesforce. And there are numbers of other CRMs in the market right now that allow an export in a comma-separated value, CSV, and we're able to bring in data from any CSV file and bring that directly into Maximizer. Yeah, that's a good question. Thank you. This is just, yes, our trial version does have sample data inside it. So one of the great things about the Wealth Management CRM is that it is fully built out and ready to use by advisors. So yes, it has a dozen records in there which have data points against them. But what makes the Wealth Manager is, firstly, it has a household structure. It has over 400 custom fields that are laying in wait. So all the fields from your Know Your Client form, and banking information, personal information, employment information, insurance information, seg funds, GICs. We have fields for so all of that type of information. We've also built searches out on the software, so we're doing segmentation of your client lists. We're looking for clients that have upcoming birthdays, retirement dates, turning 65, turning 71, anybody that has any reviews. So we have fields for the KYC, tax planning, estate planning. And we also have a lot of workflow. We've put in workflow that's specific to your industry. All of we call them action plans, but they're workflow processes, and they are industry specific, they're compliant, they were made by advisors and given to me as examples of how new accounts are created, how KYC forms are reviewed, how an estate plan is created, how a financial plan is created. So all of this workflow is also embedded in Maximizer, which is part of the build-out of what makes the Wealth Management Edition the Wealth Management Edition. I know I've said a lot there, and this is what makes having a trial, I think, quite beneficial, as well as having someone like myself walk you around the entire product. By spending 10 or 15 minutes with you, you'll have a really good appreciation for the advantages of using an industry-specific CRM versus one that's not. Okay, I'm just looking to see if there's been any other questions that have come in, and there hasn't. And I'll just give everybody a couple more minutes, or another 30 seconds, I should say it is. Nope, I think we're good. Okay, so thank you again, everyone, for spending time with me today. I very much appreciate it. Again, if you have any further questions, you can send me an email. We did record this session, and we will send out a recording to everybody so that you'll have the slides and my speaker notes that went with it. Again, thank you very much, and I hope you all have a great day. Bye for now.